Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Pure Barrel. Today's topic is who invented vodka? Well, not this particular one because I know all about this one anyway. I touched on this in my previous presentation, but today we're going to look at it from a slightly different perspective. Why did I choose vodka? Well, for the past 6 years, I worked for a small craft distillery based in Wheeling, Illinois. One of our product was Crystone vodka, and for me to order successful placements in the market, I needed to understand the category inside out to know exactly how the product is made and a little bit of history. I might upset some people today with my answer, but that's what happens when you tell the truth. My research isn't based solely on my opinion, it's based on other people's work, most notably Alfred Bernard and Charles McLean. All I did was just putting the pieces together, and I guarantee you'll be very surprised with the answer I came up with. I'll reference some documented rules and regulations along the way to make it hard for you to argue with me, but if you wanted to do so, feel free. That's what the comment section is for, right? So we'll start with a bit of history to give you a general understanding of distilled products, and then we'll zoom in on vodka to see what it really is, was it made, how it's made, and who invented it. We start from the very first beginning with the word alcohol. The word alcohol comes from Arabic and roughly translates to a substance or drug that affects the mind. That alone tells us something very important. Alcohol has been around for a very, very long time. We know ancient Sumerian tablets describe how to make beer. Some historians believe distillation might have existed in India and China thousands of years ago. We know ancient Egyptians used distillation for perfumes, and ancient Greeks used it to turn salt water into drinking water. The alcohol production begins with a process called fermentation. I'll flash the chemical formula on the screen right now. There you go. It's a simple process. It's all natural process as well. Basically, sugar turns into alcohol when yeast, with the Latin name of Saccharomyces cerevisiae, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right, consumes it. And once the alcohol level in the liquid reaches 15% ABV, the yeast dies. How ironic to die from something that you've created. Well, that's the truth. In order to go above that strength, 15% of ABV, you need to go through another process called distillation. And distillation doesn't happen naturally. Distillation basically separates alcohol from water using heat. Thanks to the properties of alcohol, which evaporates at about 78 degrees Celsius, while water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. By capturing and condensing alcohol vapor, you increase the alcohol strength by removing water. Who invented distillation? We really don't know. But what we do know is that the word vodka first appeared in the Polish court documents in the 1400s. That doesn't necessarily mean that Poland invented vodka. Vodka could be made from anything, grains, fruit, potatoes, you name it. And that brings me to one of the biggest myths. I actually heard one gentleman telling me that vodka in Russian means potato. Total nonsense. The word vodka comes from the word voda, which means water. And that meaning exists across many Eastern European languages. Interestingly enough, the word whiskey comes from the Gaelic phrase ishki baha, meaning water of life. Throughout the years, baha was dropped and ishki became whiskey. So yes, both vodka and whiskey literally mean water. Who knew? I did. Well, right. So there are several theories about how distillation came to Europe. Some credit St. Patrick, and maybe that's why Ireland was one of the first countries in Europe to distill. Others point to the Crusades or the Turkish invasions of the 1300s. Any or all of these could be true. But what is important is, back then, distillation was done using small copper pot stills, also known as the alembics. People fermented what grew locally, mostly grains in the northern parts of Europe, and fruits mostly in the southern parts of Europe. So if you ferment the same ingredients using the same equipment, most likely you're going to end up with the same thing, right? So early vodka was essentially an aged whiskey, of course, if it was distilled from grains. So if you're from Poland or Russia, and if you had homemade vodka, I bet you that this product didn't taste nothing like the vodka that is sold in stores today. Am I right? Probably. So yes, historically vodka and whiskey tasted almost identical. But why so different today? I know some of you will say, barrels, whiskey must be aged in a barrel. And partially you're right. Whiskey must be aged in a barrel and vodka doesn't. But even if you put vodka in a barrel, legally cannot be called whiskey, nor it will taste the same. That brings us to the law. According to TTP regulations, which is the US agency that controls and regulates the industry, vodka must be distilled at 95% ABV to be considered a neutral spirit, on what we call vodka. That's why you don't have a lot of flavor in vodka. Of course, vodka undergoes through a filtration process which additionally strips out a lot of the flavor. Whiskey, on the other hand, must be distilled at 80 ABV or lower, and that's a massive difference. But here's the catch. Traditional copper pot stills, which were used for the making of all kinds of spirits, vodka, whiskey, cognac, rum, they came in a lot of different shapes and sizes, but the concept was the same. This type of still cannot physically produce alcohol at 95% ABV. It doesn't matter how many times you distill, the laws of physics simply won't allow it. So when you see some brands market themselves as a pot still distilled vodka, yeah, I hate to break it to you, but that's mostly marketing nonsense. Pot stills may be part of the process, but not the whole story. So we're getting close to our answer. In 1824, near Edinburgh, Scotland, a distillery called Cameron Bridge was built by John Haig from the famous Haig whiskey family. His cousin, Robert Stein, was an engineer and he helped John set up the distillery. In 1827, Stein developed a revolutionary new still design. By connecting multiple stills with internal plates, alcohol vapor could be repeatedly stripped of water as it traveled upward, dramatically increasing the alcohol strength. The higher the stills, the more plates, the higher the alcohol proof. And this is how we reach the 95% of ABV, which is required by law in order the product to be called vodka. 3 years later, in 1830, an Irish excise officer named Aeneas Coffey, who worked at the same distillery, improved or possibly copied the design, but more importantly, he's the one who patented it. So history credits him, even though Stein likely invented it first. Together, these two gentlemen created the column still, also known as the coffee still. And thanks to that still, the continuous distillation is possible. And that's what makes modern vodka. So here's the final answer. Vodka wasn't invented in Russia or Poland or in that part of the world. It was invented in Scotland, perfected by an Irishman, with a little help from a Scotsman. Yeah. I told you it's going to be a surprise. Here's a little fun fact for you. If you ever come across a bottle of Japanese whiskey called Nikka, and if you read on the label, coffee still, it has nothing to do with coffee beans. It's named after his creator, Aeneas Coffey. So I hope you learned something new. This is your answer. If you have something to add, please do. Use the comment section. And hopefully I'll be back soon with something even more interesting. Thank you for watching again. Bye-bye.